The ground shook before anyone understood what was happening. The field trip convoy had stopped inside a broken alien valley, surrounded by cracked metal walls and dead towers that looked like they had been buried for centuries. Cadets stood in neat lines at first, listening to instructors explain the sight. But that calm broke the moment the crater in the center began to glow. A deep sound rolled out of it like something breathing after a long sleep. Then it rose. At first it looked like smoke forming a shape. Then it became solid. A massive creature pushed up from the crater floor. Its body was covered in layered shifting scales that looked like metal but moved like skin. Its head alone was bigger than the transport vehicles parked at the edge of the field. Someone whispered, "That's not in the records." No one moved after that. The creature opened one eye. The eye was not simple. It had rings of light inside it like systems waking up. The air around it became heavy as if pressure itself was changing. The ground cracked a little more under its weight. A cadet dropped his scanner. It hit the ground too loudly. Everyone flinched at the sound. The instructors shouted for calm, but their voices broke halfway through. The communication devices on their wrists flickered, then failed completely. Even the drones sent to monitor the area froze mid-air and fell like dead insects. The creature slowly turned its head toward the group. It did not roar. It did not attack. It simply looked. That silence was worse than any sound. Fear spread fast. One cadet stepped back, then another. Soon the entire group was shifting away without orders. No one wanted to be the first target. The instructors tried to hold formation, but even they were moving now, hands shaking. Except one person did not move. Evan Rourke stood near the middle of the group, holding a small ration pack in his hands. He had not even opened it yet. His face was pale, but his eyes stayed fixed on the creature. "Cadet Rourke, fall back," an instructor shouted. Evan did not answer. The creature's head tilted slightly as if it noticed him for the first time. The glowing patterns in its eyes shifted direction. The air around Evan became warmer, like a slow breath had landed on him. The others had already moved back 20 meters. No one stood between Evan and the creature now. A security officer raised a weapon, hands shaking. "We should evacuate now," he said loudly. "We don't know what it is." But evacuation had already failed. The transport systems were not responding. Something in the valley was blocking signals. The only exit route was locked behind automatic gates that no longer opened. They were trapped. Evan slowly looked down at his ration pack. It was simple food meant for long field exposure. Nothing special. He opened it quietly as if the situation was normal. That small sound of tearing packaging made everyone freeze again. The creature reacted. Its body shifted forward slightly, heavy enough that the ground groaned. Dust rose in waves. The heat in the air increased, and the edges of metal ruins nearby began to vibrate. The security officer shouted, "Don't move. Don't do anything." But Evan stood up. That was the moment everything broke inside the group. Someone screamed softly. Another cadet backed into a wall of broken metal and fell. Evan walked forward. Step by step, he left the safety of the group and entered the open ground between humans and the giant creature. No weapon. No shield. Just a small food pack in his hands. "Is he insane?" someone whispered. No one stopped him. Fear had made everyone slow, like their bodies no longer obeyed properly. The creature watched him closely now. Its eye focused completely on Evan. The glowing rings inside it shifted faster, like a system trying to understand something unfamiliar. Evan stopped about 10 meters away. For a moment nothing happened. Then he slowly sat down. Right on the cracked ground. Right in front of the giant alien dragon. Behind him, the entire field trip group stood frozen in disbelief. No one spoke. Even the wind seemed to stop. Evan looked at the creature again, then calmly placed part of his ration on the ground between them. A long silence followed. The creature lowered its head slightly. And then, it moved closer. The moment the giant alien dragon moved forward, every cadet behind Evan stepped back at once. No one said the order. Fear did it for them. The ground trembled under the creature's weight. Each step it took was slow, careful, almost testing the surface like it was unsure if the world itself would hold. Its glowing eyes stayed locked on Evan as if everything else in the valley no longer existed. Evan did not move. His hands stayed near the ration pack, but he didn't reach for anything else. His breathing was steady even though his heart was loud in his chest. He had no training for this. No protocol for sitting in front of something that could crush a transport ship without effort. Behind him, panic was growing. "Pull him back," one instructor shouted, voice breaking. "That thing is reacting to him." But no one dared step forward. The space between Evan and the group felt like a border that no one wanted to cross. The creature lowered its head further. Its massive jaw opened slightly, not like an attack but like a slow intake of air. A deep vibration rolled through the ground. The ration pack near Evan shifted a little, sliding on the cracked stone as if pulled by invisible pressure. Evan slowly pushed it forward again. Just a few centimeters. That small action changed everything. The creature paused. Its head stopped moving. The glowing rings inside its eye flickered in uneven patterns. For a second, it looked confused, like something in its memory did not match what it was seeing. A cadet whispered, "It's thinking?" No one answered. Then the creature took another step. This one was closer. Much closer. The heat in the air rose sharply. The nearest metal structure behind Evan bent slightly, as if reacting to pressure waves from the creature's body. Dust swirled around its legs in slow circles. Evan's fingers tightened for a moment, but he forced himself to relax them again. He spoke for the first time. "Hey." His voice was low. Not a command. Not fear. Just calm. Behind him, someone gasped. Talking to it felt like breaking a rule that no one had written but everyone understood. The creature reacted instantly to his voice. Its head tilted again, sharper this time. The eye patterns slowed. The air pressure eased slightly, as if it was listening instead of preparing. Evan carefully opened his ration pack fully. Inside was simple food blocks and a sealed drink pouch. Nothing special. Nothing dangerous. He took one small piece of food and placed it on the ground between them. Then he stopped moving. Minutes passed. The silence grew heavier, not lighter. Even the instructors had stopped shouting now. They were watching, frozen, trying to understand what they were seeing. A weaponized alien-level organism, responding to a human cadet like this? It made no sense. Then the creature moved again. This time, it lowered its head all the way to the ground. The impact was soft, not violent. Like something tired finally choosing to rest. A deep vibration passed through the soil, and the ration pack near Evan shifted again. But this time it didn't slide away. It stayed exactly where it was, as if the creature had stopped pushing it. Evan didn't move either. The creature's massive eye was now level with him. Up close it was even more complex. Layers of light rotated inside it, not random but structured. Like language. Like thought. One of the cadets behind Evan whispered shakily, "It's not attacking." Another replied, "Then what is it doing?" No one had an answer. Suddenly the creature made a sound. It was not a roar. It was not loud. It was deep and broken, like something old trying to speak after a long silence. The sound passed through the ground and into their bones more than their ears. Several cadets fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the vibration. Evan stayed seated. He watched carefully, then slowly pushed another piece of food forward. The creature reacted immediately. Its head moved closer by a fraction. The air shifted again. But this time it was different. Less pressure. More focus. As if it was studying the food. Then, without warning, one of the nearby drones suddenly flickered back online for half a second. Its broken camera captured a single frame before dying again. That frame showed something inside the creature's body. Not organs. Not bones. But structures, artificial patterns mixed with organic layers, like something built and grown at the same time. An instructor saw the frame and froze completely. "That's engineered," he whispered. The realization spread like ice. This wasn't a wild creature. It was made. The dragon shifted again, reacting to the sudden energy spike in the environment. The ground cracked slightly under its front limb. Dust rose sharply. Fear returned instantly among the group. "Step back," someone shouted. "It's unstable." But Evan raised one hand slightly, not to them but toward the creature. A silent request. The creature stopped moving again. Everything froze. Even the wind. Evan exhaled slowly as if trying to understand something invisible. Then he made a decision that no one expected. He picked up the food piece again, and gently placed it closer to the creature's mouth. The moment it crossed that invisible boundary, the creature's eye flared brighter than before. And deep inside the valley, something long dormant suddenly responded with a low, distant alarm pulse that no one had ever heard before. The low alarm pulse rolled through the valley like a heartbeat from the ground itself. It was not loud, but it was everywhere. Metal ruins vibrated in response. Fine dust lifted from cracks and floated upward as if gravity had weakened for a second. Every cadet felt it in their bones. Even those who had been trying to stay calm now stepped back again instinctively. Evan stayed seated. The giant alien dragon lifted its head slightly, reacting to the same pulse. Its glowing eye patterns shifted rapidly, no longer slow and confused but sharp and alert. The calm moment between it and Evan began to break. Behind Evan, panic returned fully. "That's a system trigger," one instructor shouted, voice tight with fear. Something in the facility just woke up. But there was no facility in sight. Only broken towers, dead metal, and the crater where the creature had emerged. Still, the alarm pulse came again, stronger this time. The creature's body tensed. Its scales shifted in waves like armor locking into place. The air temperature dropped suddenly, then rose again, unstable and violent. The rationed food on the ground between Evan and the dragon began to shake slightly, sliding toward the creature as if pulled by unseen force. Evan noticed it, but instead of pulling back, he did something unexpected. He placed his hand over the food to stop it from moving. That small contact changed the reaction instantly. The dragon froze. Its massive eye locked directly on Evan's hand. The glowing rings inside it slowed again, not fully calm but no longer aggressive either. It was like the creature was trying to decide what his action meant. The alarm pulse in the valley continued. Now it was joined by something else. A faint mechanical hum rose from below the ground. Deep, layered, like old systems waking up after centuries of silence. One cadet whispered, "Is this place alive?" No one answered. Then the ground near the crater split slightly. A thin line of light appeared under the cracked surface, like circuitry hidden beneath stone. The dragon reacted instantly. It lifted one claw ready, but it did not strike. It hesitated again. Evan saw the light too. His mind raced, but not with fear, only questions. This wasn't random. The pulse, the reaction, the creature's behavior, it all connected to something buried under the valley. Behind him, an instructor made a decision. "We need to pull him out. Now," he ordered, and two security cadets finally moved forward. But the moment they stepped into the open ground, the dragon reacted violently for the first time. A sharp pulse burst from its body. Not fire. Not physical attack. A wave of pressure. The advancing cadets were thrown backward like they had hit a solid wall. Their gear sparked and shut down instantly. They fell hard, groaning, unable to move forward again. The entire group went silent. The dragon had drawn a boundary. Evan slowly turned his head slightly, seeing what had happened behind him. His expression stayed controlled, but something inside him shifted. This creature wasn't protecting itself randomly. It was protecting this moment. He looked back at the dragon and spoke again, quietly. "You don't want them here, do you?" The creature did not respond in words. But the glowing patterns in its eye changed rhythm again, slower, almost stable. Then the ground pulse intensified. This time it came in a structured pattern. Not chaos. Not alarm. Signal. A pattern that repeated in intervals, like coded communication trying to reach something far away. One of the instructors suddenly froze mid-breath. "That's not a warning," he said slowly. "That's a response signal." A cadet turned toward him. Response to what? Before anyone could answer, Evan noticed something else. The dragon was no longer fully focused on him. Its attention was split, between Evan, the food, and the ground beneath them. Like it was listening to something deeper than sound. Then, without warning, the dragon lowered its head slightly and pressed one claw into the cracked earth. The ground lit up instantly. A circular pattern of light expanded from the point of contact, spreading beneath the dust like a hidden map waking up. Lines of energy traced ancient geometry across the valley floor. Gasps erupted behind Evan. "What is that?" Evan stared at it carefully. His instincts told him something important was happening, not danger but activation. The dragon's eye glowed brighter, and for the first time, it shifted its gaze away from Evan completely, and looked upward toward the sky, as if it was expecting something to answer. Then the ground beneath them gave another pulse, stronger than before, and the broken valley systems began to react in sync. Deep below the surface, something massive had just recognized the dragon's presence. And it was waking up fully. The valley did not feel like a place anymore. It felt like something alive was opening its eyes under the ground. The light pattern beneath the dragon spread wider, forming a full circle that stretched across cracked stone and buried metal. Every line pulsed in rhythm with the deep signal rising from below. The air itself felt unstable, like reality was holding its breath. Evan stayed seated, but his body was tense now. He could feel it clearly. This was no longer just about the creature in front of him. Something larger was responding to it. Behind him, fear broke into chaos. "We are leaving now," an instructor shouted, voice cracking. Full evacuation. But nothing moved properly anymore. The transport systems were still dead. The drones were gone. Even the communication devices were flickering in and out, as if the valley was swallowing signals. The dragon lifted its head slowly. Its glowing eye was no longer calm or confused. It was fully alert now, locked onto the expanding light below. The patterns inside its eye rotated faster, matching the rhythm of the ground signal. Evan noticed something terrifying. The dragon was not the source of the activation. It was the key. A loud mechanical tone suddenly echoed from deep underground. It was not natural. It was structured, repeating in precise intervals. The same pattern as the earlier pulses, but now much stronger. The ground cracked open a little more. A thin pillar of light rose from the center of the crater, cutting through dust and heat distortion. It reached upward, scanning the sky like an eye opening after a long sleep. One cadet screamed, "It's activating the whole site." The instructor grabbed his helmet. "This is not a creature zone. This is a sealed system." That statement changed everything in their minds. This valley was not just ruins. It was a locked structure. And the dragon was standing in the center of its control point. The dragon reacted instantly to the rising pillar of light. It stepped forward and the ground shook violently. Cracks spread outward in sharp patterns. The energy field around it intensified, pushing wind outward in waves. Evan finally stood up. It was not fear that made him move. It was realization. He looked at the dragon closely. "You're not attacking," he said quietly. "You're reacting." The dragon turned its head slightly toward him as if acknowledging his voice, but its attention was still divided. The light pillar suddenly expanded. A second tone joined the first, deeper, heavier. The ground beneath Evan's feet vibrated so strongly that small stones began to float slightly before dropping again. Then something worse happened. The security systems of the field trip convoy finally came back online. But they did not show evacuation routes. They showed one message in red across every broken screen. "Purge sequence initialized." The instructors froze. No, that shouldn't be possible," one of them whispered. "This system was decommissioned centuries ago." The dragon reacted to the message instantly. Its entire body shifted into a defensive stance. Heat distortion exploded around it. The air pressure spiked so fast that several cadets collapsed again. But this time, Evan saw something different. The dragon was not preparing to attack them. It was reacting to the purge signal. Evan turned toward the instructors. "It's not causing it," he said firmly. "It's stopping it." No one understood him. Before anyone could respond, the ground split again. This time, the crack was wide enough to reveal something underneath, massive metallic structures buried deep below the valley floor. They were not broken ruins. They were intact systems, ancient and still functional. And they were powering up. The dragon stepped closer to Evan again, but slower now, as if trying to position itself between him and the rising structures. That realization hit Evan hard. The creature was protecting him. Not the valley. Not itself. Him. The pillar of light suddenly changed direction. It locked onto the dragon. A scanning beam formed instantly, moving over its body. The dragon roared for the first time, not loud like an animal but deep, resonant, full of resistance. The sound shattered nearby dust into waves. The instructors shouted, but no one could hear clearly anymore. The valley had become a storm of sound, light, and pressure. Evan saw the truth forming too fast. The system below had identified the dragon as an active trigger, and it was preparing to eliminate it. A countdown appeared in fragmented holographic flashes across the air. Then, the dragon took one step back. The ground cracked further. Evan looked at the countdown, then at the creature, then at the systems beneath the valley. He made a decision without hesitation. He stepped forward again, straight into the space between the dragon and the light pillar. A human stood in the path of an ancient system designed for destruction. The dragon lowered its head slightly as if sensing what he was about to do. The countdown continued. 5, 4, 3. Evan raised his hand toward the nearest broken control panel emerging from the ground. He didn't know if it would work. But he knew one thing clearly. The system saw only monsters. Then it would never stop. The dragon emitted a low pulse. Not fear. Recognition. The countdown reached its final number, and for a fraction of a second, everything in the valley felt completely still. Evan's hand was pressed against the broken control panel rising from the ground. The metal was warm, alive with ancient power. The dragon stood directly behind him, its massive body tense, ready for anything but no longer moving forward or back. Even the air seemed frozen, waiting for the outcome. Then the system reacted. Instead of firing the purge, the light pillar flickered violently. The scanning beam that had locked onto the dragon wavered. Lines of data burst across the air in unstable patterns, as if the system had encountered something it could not categorize. Evan's biometric signal was now part of the system. A human presence inside a sealed ancient control network. The valley responded differently. The ground pulses slowed. The mechanical hum deep beneath the surface shifted tone, no longer aggressive but uncertain. Like a machine trying to understand a command it had not heard in centuries. Behind Evan, the instructors and cadets were still frozen in shock. No one dared move. They had just watched a human cadet step into the middle of an ancient purge sequence and interrupt it with nothing but his presence. One instructor whispered, "He shouldn't even be recognized by that system." But the system had recognized him. The dragon lowered its head slightly again, this time not from threat or confusion, but from something closer to exhaustion. Its glowing eye patterns dimmed a little, as if the constant pressure had finally loosened. Evan stayed focused on the control panel. He didn't understand the full system, but he understood patterns. The signals were not random. The dragon's presence was not an error. It was a key that had been misread as a threat. He adjusted his hand position slightly, pressing along a second cracked interface point. The system reacted immediately. The countdown disappeared. Instead, a new sequence began forming. Not destruction. Recalibration. The light pillar above the crater shifted from red-white to a calmer blue tone. The scanning beam over the dragon softened, then spread across its body in slower waves. The pressure in the air began to drop. The dragon lifted its head slightly. Its glowing eye stabilized for the first time since it had awakened. The chaotic rings inside it slowed into a steady rhythm, matching the valley's new signal. Evan exhaled slowly, but he did not relax fully. He could feel something still unresolved underneath the system's response. A deeper layer had not fully shut down. Behind him, one cadet finally spoke, voice trembling. Did he just stop it? No one answered. They couldn't. Because even the instructors were not sure what they had just witnessed. Then the ground shifted again. A section of the crater floor opened wider, revealing a massive structure beneath the valley. It was not ruins, it was a control core, ancient but intact, stretching deep underground like the heart of a buried machine world. And it was still partially active. A new signal appeared above it. Not a purge. A message. It formed slowly in fragmented light. Entity link established. The dragon reacted immediately to the message. It stepped forward but not aggressively. Its movement was careful, controlled, almost like it was responding to something it had been waiting for a very long time. Evan turned his head slightly to look at it. For the first time, the dragon was not overwhelming. It was not just a force of destruction or mystery. It felt present. A living system that had been isolated too long. The control panel beneath Evan's hand emitted a final pulse. Then everything stabilized. The light pillar faded into a steady glow. The ground vibrations stopped. The mechanical hum deep below settled into silence, as if going back into rest mode. The valley was no longer trying to destroy anything. But it was still awake. Evan slowly removed his hand from the panel. Nothing exploded. Nothing collapsed. Instead, the system remained active, but calm. Behind him, the instructors finally began moving again, slowly approaching, unsure if it was safe. But the dragon reacted instantly to their movement. It took one step forward. Not to attack. To block. Its massive body shifted between Evan and the approaching group in one fluid motion. The ground shook slightly under its weight, but there was no aggression in its stance now. It was deliberate. Protective. Evan noticed it immediately. He raised one hand gently toward the dragon without turning around fully. "It's okay," he said softly. The dragon did not respond with words, but its posture changed slightly. It did not relax completely, but it did not escalate either. A balance had formed. Human voice. Ancient system. Alien guardian. All linked in a fragile equilibrium. Then, deep underground, something new activated for the first time since the system woke. A distant transmission pulse shot upward from the core, passing through the dragon, through Evan's position, and out into the sky. Every device that still had partial power in the valley captured a fragment of it. A coordinate signal. Not local. Not planetary. Something far beyond. The instructors saw it at the same time. One of them whispered in disbelief, "That's not internal. That's being sent out." The dragon lifted its head toward the sky again. Its eye glowed brighter one last time. And Evan, still standing between an ancient system and a living unknown entity, realized something that made his chest tighten. This was not the end of an encounter. It was the beginning of a response. Somewhere far away, something had just received the signal.